My dear students, welcome to my today's class on planes and patterns of cleavage. In my previous class, I have taught you about cleavage and the effect of yoke on the cleavage process. Now let us study the planes and patterns of cleavage, a new topic in developmental biology. I am Dr. Meera B.K, Associate Professor and Head, Department of Zoology, Maharani Science College for Women, Palace Road, Bangalore 1. On the slide you can see my cell phone number, so also my email ID. By now you must be knowing why they are there. After the class, for any queries, any clarifications, do contact me on my cell phone or through my email ID. Now let us begin the class. We should know what is cleavage. I have taught you already, but still we shall have repetition. Cleavage is a series of mitotic divisions of the ovum occurring in rapid succession. This term cleavage has two synonyms. It is called segmentation or cellulation. Whatever it is, all the three mean the same. So, a series of mitotic divisions of the ovum occurring in rapid succession is called cleavage. The early divisions during cleavage occur in close succession, resulting in thousands of daughter cells, and by now you already know that the daughter cells of cleavage are called blastomeres. During cleavage, one more characteristic feature of cleavage, the blastomeres progressively decrease in size, which doesn't happen. Progressively decrease in size. Now let us study. We have to concentrate on two things today. One is planes of cleavage and the one is patterns of cleavage. Let us learn first planes of cleavage. During cleavage, karyokinesis, that means division of nucleus, is followed by the appearance of a depression in the cell membrane as a signal for the initiation of cytokinesis, and this depression, what you see on the cell membrane, is called the cleavage furrow. The cleavage furrow divide the egg in different angles which constitute the plane of cleavage, and this plane is of four types when we study in various animal eggs. Now look at the diagram. This is a diagrammatic picture of an egg. The upper hemisphere and the pole is called animal pole. In the lower hemisphere, the pole is called vegetal pole. Animal pole AP, vegetal pole VP. And now you can see one dark line passing from animal pole to the vegetal pole, passing through the center, and it has been named as meridional plane. Please remember this, meridional plane, first one. Then on either side of this dark line, you can see two parallel lines. They do not pass through the center, and these planes are called vertical planes. So meridional plane is the one which passes through the center of the egg. Vertical plane is the one which doesn't pass through the center, but it is parallel to the meridional plane. Then, apart from these three lines, vertically, horizontally you can see three more lines. One, again dark line, in the center of the egg, which passes through the center of the egg, it is equatorial plane. And on either side of this equatorial line, you can see two more lines which doesn't pass through the center, and they are transverse planes. So right now you can see one meridional plane, vertical plane. Number 3, equatorial plane. Number 4, transverse plane. Please remember all this because I am going to elaborate in my future slides each one of it. Now let us study the meridional plane. Here the cleavage furrow passes through the center of the animal-vegetal pole axis of the ovum. The axis is the one which runs from animal pole to the vegetal pole, and here the cleavage furrow passes through the center, bisecting it into two equal halves. This plane is called meridional plane. Best example for this is first and second cleavage divisions in Amphixus, a protochordate, and frog, amphibian, right? Now, in this diagram, you can see the first diagram is the zygote, second and third, okay? Second and third do represent the first and second cleavage stages where the cleavage plane is meridional but which occur at right angles to each other. So first and second cleavage divisions in Amphixus and Frog are meridional as far as the plane is concerned. The lower diagrams, do look at them. Let us come back to the same slide after some time. Then the second plane is vertical plane. The cleavage furrow passes through animal-vegetal pole axis of the ovum but not through the center. Please remember, but not through the center. Instead, it passes vertically through the sides of the median axis. You can see the yellow arrow mark in figure C where it has been labeled third. So third cleavage furrow of chick happens in vertical plane. Next we have to learn about equatorial plane. This plane bisects the ovum through the equator, that is halfway between animal pole and the vegetal pole axis, that is at right angles to the meridional axis. That is at right angles to the meridional axis. Best example for this plane is third cleavage furrow of Amphixus and Frog. So in this slide, you can see the diagrammatic representations of the cleavage equatorial plane and meridional plane. So the first diagram shows the equatorial plane and the second diagram shows the meridional plane. So the third cleavage furrow of Amphixus and Frog represent the equatorial plane. Now let me go back to the previous slide. Yeah, here you can see the 8-celled embryo, a horizontal line which is the equatorial plane. Okay, so this is what I meant by equatorial plane. Now the fourth type, let us see, it is latitudinal plane, also called transverse plane or horizontal plane. This cleavage plane bisects the blastomeres on either side of the equatorial plane of the ovum latitudinally. Best example is fifth cleavage furrow of Amphixus and Frog. I think we have to go back to the same slide. So here you observe the embryo at 32 cell stage. You can see the equatorial plane, one horizontal line above the equatorial plane, another horizontal line below the equatorial plane represent the latitudinal plane. This is what I meant by latitudinal plane. Center one is the equatorial plane and the upper and lower lines are the latitudinal plane. So this is the fifth stage, cleavage stage of frog. Okay. Now, after learning the four different types of cleavage planes, we have to get into the next topic, that is patterns of cleavage. What exactly it is? The geometric plane of cleavage follows a particular pattern. The geometric plane of cleavage follows a particular pattern in different groups of animals. Depending upon the geometric plane or symmetry of cleavage furrows, four types of cleavages have been identified. First one is the radial cleavage. Here, the blastomeres of the upper tier lie over the corresponding blastomeres of the lower tier. You can see the diagram here. The macromeres form the lower tier, micromeres form the upper tier, and these blastomeres of the upper tier lie over the corresponding blastomeres of the lower tier. Please do remember this. Then the blastomeres are arranged symmetrically around the polar axis of the ovum. They are arranged symmetrically over the polar axis of the ovum, and the blastomeres are of equal size. Best example for this is sea-urchin eggs. Then the second type of cleavage is the spiral cleavage, where the spindle axis lie obliquely with respect of the animal-vegetal pole axis, so that the upper tier of cells lies over the junction between the lower tier of cells, forming a spiral. Please note the difference between radial cleavage and spiral cleavage. In radial cleavage, the upper tier lie over the corresponding blastomeres of the lower tier, whereas in spiral cleavage, the upper tier of cells lie over the junction between the lower tier of cells, forming a sort of spiral. The moment we say spiral, the turn may be clockwise when we call dextral, or it can be anticlockwise when we call sinistral, when viewed from the top view, that is polar view. Best example for spiral cleavage: nemertines, polyclads, annelids, mollusks, etc. All of them exhibit this spiral cleavage. Now, this is a slide showing you all different types of cleavages. Radial cleavage, I am yet to teach, make a note of it. Spiral cleavage, I have already shown you. Then bilateral cleavage, yet to teach, let me tell you. Okay. Next, bilateral cleavage. It is almost similar to radial cleavage, but the blastomeres show size differences and are arranged in such a pattern so as to produce a bilateral symmetry. You can see here, this type is seen in tunicates, which are protocardates. Then, fourth type is biradial cleavage. The first two cleavage divisions here are meridional, while the third is vertical, leading to the formation of a curved plate of 8 cells in 2 rows of 4 tiers, 2 rows of 4 each. This type of cleavage is seen in only one group of animals, that is Ctenophora, which is now raised to the level of minor phylum after coelentrates. Ctenophorans are exemplified by Hermifora, Pleurobrachia, etc. The adults also exhibit biradial symmetry. So this is the picture. You can see the embryo at 8-celled stage where the cleavage is taking place in such a way that almost a biradial symmetry is seen. So till now I have taught you 4 different types of cleavage planes and 4 different types of cleavage patterns with examples. Thank you for patient listening. Any questions, do contact me. Stay blessed.